my pleasure today to introduce Jared Fuller, who is as I said the other night, a serial and parallel entrepreneur. He is the CEO, he's the founder of Market Aces, co-founder and CEO of the Liberty Business Bureau, and the co-founder and CEO of JobHive, the first a job network. And today he will be speaking on the capital theory of social change. So with that said, turn it over to Jared.
Well, thanks everyone for nursing your hangovers this morning with some coffee and coming out to see this presentation. This is, I guess, my quote-unquote contribution, so to speak, for our ideas, and what I actually believe in is that intersection between our philosophy and the execution of solutions. So the title of this talk is The Capital Theory of Social Change, and I want to distinguish that just to set the stage between the political theory of social change, i.e., a Ron Paul or a Rand Paul, and then the academic theory of social change, so the Atlas Society or the Ludwig von Mises Institute. We all like these individuals, I would presume, to some degree, even though we have probably plenty to criticize about a different ideology or a different organization like the Ludwig von Mises Institute or Rand Paul's latest politically motivated comment that may not agree with our philosophy 100%. But I want to talk about something outside of that. So we're not going to be talking about politics proper. We're not going to be talking about academics proper. We're going to be talking about business. Can anyone answer this question? Well, no, seriously. So responses from the audience. So let's get some engagement. This is not like a super formal presentation, nor is it extremely academic. We're talking macro stuff here. What's your purpose? Why do you guys exist? What's your purpose? Right there. Liberty. Liberty's your purpose, all right? Anyone else? Happiness? Oh, I like happiness. Who doesn't like happiness, right? No, you guys are wrong. It's to bitch and moan, right? I mean, that's what we do. We complain all the time about the government's doing this, or that idiot's doing that, or it's freedom from, right? Our problem is we have a negative philosophy, right? Libertarianism, objectivism. I think objectivism is unique insofar as we have a moral framework which to also operate in. But for the most part, right, when we're talking politics or academics, it's, well, the government can't do that, or this shouldn't do this, or you can't do that to me, or how dare you? It's never actually providing a solution. I think that's a big problem, right? Most people want things solved. They just don't want problems identified. So when people go, oh, you're one of those crazy libertarians, are they saying that because you've provided them with something positive? So in my time as a entrepreneur and someone who is deeply rooted in the ideas of liberty, both politically, socially, and actually in execution, I've developed what I call the capital theory of social change. What an audacious claim, right? Like the Hayekian theory of social change does not necessarily apply, nor does the political one necessarily apply. And what I mean to differentiate is that, and here's my definition, so if you want to write it down, academics, politics, and business can all change and influence any problem of the human condition. But only business can solve them, right? So academics and politics and business can change or influence any problem of the human condition, but only business can solve them. So I'll give you a bit of background on myself, why the heck I'm here, and what gives me any authority to speak on this subject matter. So I'm a proud college dropout. And I went to Wake Forest University, and while I was at Wake Forest, I started a nonprofit dedicating to running youth for public office. So what a crazy idea, right? So getting someone under the age of 25 to run for an office and win. And we were actually fairly successful. I mean, we resourced campaigns from the mayor of Rice Lake, Wisconsin, who got elected at 19 years old, raised a lot of money out of a dorm room, became good friends with Dr. Thomas Taylor, who is the former dean of the business school. Actually, I read his book. It was called An Introduction to Austrian Economics, which, I was libertarian and I wanted to read an introductory book, and I went to the Mises Institute, so I had to read this book to go there, and it said on the back cover, Dr. Thomas Taylor is Professor Emeritus of Accountancy and the former Dean of the Wake Forest Business School. So I read his book, then I walked into his office and said, hey, I read your book. And he said, what? What book? I've never wrote a book. What do you mean you've never wrote a book? I have it right here. He said, that one? I wrote that over 30 years ago. I've never had someone walk into my office and say, I've read that book. Well, here I am. I don't know. I thought everyone read Austrian economics, right? And became very good friends with him, and ended up being one of the primary, influencers in me pursuing a business career. And because of my background in trying to run someone under the age of 25 for public office, I encountered a couple problems. The problems were marketing and technology, right? I had to market these candidates and then distribute messages so people would come out and vote for them. Not to mention the overwhelming fact that everyone was under the age of 25 and they had no political experience. So I had to innovate, right, in marketing and technology. So that's where I started my first company, right? I had a nonprofit, started my first company to solve a marketing and technology problem that I had. Withdrew from college, took a $15,000 loan, which I repaid within the first year to get the business off the ground, hired my first couple employees, one of which who is here now, and then another one who joined on later. Jackie and Brian have been very, very much a big portion of my success. Without them, I really wouldn't have anything. And then move that into new ventures. So Market Aces, to me, my first company, was always supposed to be the company that was able to produce what I wanted to see happen, right? So marketing and technology, right? Articulate to people around you what you're doing, how you're doing it different, and then why you're doing it, right? The three circles of marketing that are pretty traditional. That is my background, is really focusing on creative direction and distributing a message that people can believe in and believe in your product. So I've also started, my newest startup is Job Hive, which I'm very passionate about, very excited. And it's an audacious venture as well. Who here likes LinkedIn? No one? Oh, yeah, okay, 1, 2, 3. Right, you endured LinkedIn, but you don't like it, right? So LinkedIn has probably one of the lowest positives right now. So the market positives feedback is very, very low for LinkedIn, yet it has 100 million plus users, and they have what is $23 billion market cap right now. So in terms of a business endeavor, it's very, very successful, but in terms of a product solving a solution, it's actually pretty far behind. So it's called Job Hive, the job network, and what we're trying to do is no less than take out LinkedIn. So I've gone from a nonprofit out of my dorm room to trying to take on one of America's largest tech companies. And through that process of being a libertarian when I started and objectivist as well, to where we're at now, and the different startups that we have and different ventures, I think it's important to recognize that I've always been most passionate about marketing the right message, the right way, so that people understand what you're doing. So that's my background. I'm a marketer, entrepreneur, I think, kind of by force. I mean, I didn't think I wanted to start businesses, but when you believe in something so much, 9 times out of 10, you end up starting a business to solve it, right? If you believe in, I believe in these ideas, so I started the Liberty Business Bureau, right? It's a solution to this problem, and this is the reason that we're here today. How many times have you discussed objectivist philosophy, and how many times have you discussed objectivist solutions? So fact versus theory. Right, well, there's some chuckles in the audience, but isn't that kind of sad? Objectivist theory, why aren't there objectivist facts? I mean, we're objectivists, right? Or libertarian, right? Or Austrian economics or whatever, right? Everything's very theoretical. There's very little facts. There's very little, or here's an example, right? I mean, we can point to some things like, drug decriminalization in some foreign country and go, well, they made drugs legal, and guess what? Crime dropped, and we saved money, etc., right? That's still a negative thing. It's still not a solution. People not using a drug, right? It's not providing a solution to a problem. It's a framework, right? At the end of the day, you still need to convince someone to not use the drug. No one focuses on that. That's a fact. A theory is, here's what we think will happen if something happens. Here's what we think, not here's what will. And then we can talk change versus solutions. We always want to change something, but do we ever want to solve it? Right? I think that's the difference between a theory and the difference between a fact, right? A theory is a proposed change. A fact, in terms of problem solution, is a solution. Businesses are entirely predicated on providing what of these two things? Solutions, right? Right. Again, I opened with the notion that the capital theory of social change is that politics, academics, and business can change or influence any problem of the human condition, but only business can solve them. So the two prevailing theories of social change as they are, right, everything that our movement's focused on has been academic and political, right? So the academic being, the institutions like the Atlas Society, whom I support, and the political politicians like the Rand Pauls or Ron Pauls, whom I also support. I like both of those guys. So what can politics do? Politics can influence any number of these things, right? Legislation, regulation, deregulation, that rarely happens. Is there anything else you guys think? What can politics do beyond what's on this board, right? You can influence media, pop culture. You can even influence business, right? It goes both ways. Politics very much often influences business decisions. I mean, Aaron was severely affected by, what dystopian name did they name Obamacare? The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act? Gosh. Is there anything else? Does someone think that politics can do something else other than what's on the board? Any other ideas? Well, that's what it can do. It can influence any of those. Yes. Oppose ineffective solutions. I think they oppose effective solutions. From their point of view, right? Perception's 9/10 of reality, right? So that's what politics can do in general, is influence and change any number of those things, and they do often. And what about academics? Right? It can influence hearts, minds, public policy, even the research, right? Academics is actually really, really beautiful. I mean, it gives one purpose, right? I mean, I was highly influenced by my academic career, even though that I dropped out. Like, it was very, very good for me. Is there something else that people think that academics can do other than influence these items? I mean, not to say they're trivial. They're very, very, very much important. The core part of everything that we do. But what are both of those things dependent on? Business, right? For politics, it's your tax base, right? It's the people that you're pulling your money from. It's your donations for your campaign where you're going to regulate the guy that's giving you money in the first place or set him free, right? Even Rand Paul's marketing pitch is not give me money so you can save money, but it could be, right? His donations are predicated on the fact that he's more free market and is going to potentially save businesses and individuals a lot of money through eliminations of certain tax policies and spending less money on the war on drugs or on our international foreign policy. And for academics, it's, well, why do you go to school? To get a job, right? To have a career, right? Or the execution of your idea, right? So let's talk, for instance. I mean, if I'm standing up here and I'm not necessarily trashing, I'm just saying we haven't had a big enough picture. We haven't looked at the full spectrum of what we're trying to accomplish as a movement. Let's say you find a new way to fight cancer. Let's say it's not a full-blown solution, but it's worth exploring, right? It's worth adopting, and let's say it reduces the amount of time to go, let's say it even helps like chemo treatments, right? You're going through a very painful process, and this thing provides a solution, right? So you've researched it, you've wrote papers on it, you get academic studies done on it, you're in college, you're a professor, and you go, this pill will solve it all, right? And what do you do then? At that point, you've theorized all that you possibly can, and you've provided that this thing will do what I'm saying it's going to do. Well, then you need to market it, you need to distribute it, you need to sell it, you need to have a business, right? So my point is that academics, right, can influence anything, but only the business can solve it, meaning that person who was in a lot of pain before and it's solved now, a business had to distribute that. What can business do? I believe it can change and solve any problem. What an audacious claim, right? Academic problems. Who's here has heard of Coursera? Of course, there's a couple people. Well, charter schools, right? So everyone's heard of charter schools. This is innovation in an industry that is exclusively thought of as being, well, the government takes care of academics, right? And even in America and worldwide, we have a completely new approach to academics. So there's this one company called Treehouse, teamtreehouse.com. I implore you to check it out. What they provide is basically they have the framework that you've never studied code in your life, so software development, marketing, basically anything to produce a website or an app. And they go from, you know nothing about this, to Google has a contract with them to hire people, right? So you go from, I don't know anything about programming, to I'm now an employee of Google. $25 a month. Is that a solution? Heck yeah, it is. That's amazing. What did I pay for my education? 50 grand a year, and I dropped out. That's a solution. That's an academic problem that is previously thought of, well, so you go to school for this, right? Business is providing a unique solution to that. Team Treehouse, I love as a company. In fact, I would hire someone who has their Team Treehouse certificate in iOS programming over any, I literally mean this, over any college graduate with their master's in computer science. 250 grand as opposed to $25 a month. I call that a solution, right? That's saving so much money. That's innovation. That's so beautiful, yet how many people here have talked about that? That's what I'm talking about. That's a solution on a scale that we don't even realize that is being done today. That's what I think our message needs to focus on and hone in on, is the fact that these real-world academic problems have free market business solutions. Well, even political problems, right? Let's think about some political problems. Who here is familiar with, and going to right after this speech, which is probably why you're up, SpaceX? Hey, SpaceX. I love Elon Musk. He's an amazing entrepreneur, fantastic wealth creator, and value generator. NASA, right? What does NASA do? Basically, NASA builds Ferraris to send to space. That's what they do. And they spend as much money as they possibly can to send those rockets into space and to do things and research, etc. And what did Elon Musk do? He said, well, I want to build a Prius. I'm not kidding, like it's funny, but like 40 grand as opposed to 4 million. Take the 40 grand option because will I get to my destination? Yeah, absolutely. SpaceX's rockets and their business model is not that we build the best rockets that have ever been invented. It's we get there efficiently and we spend a lot less money, and everyone went, yeah, that's a good idea. So that's generally speaking, you thought of NASA and space exploration, all these things as political things. Well, that's NASA, there's a monopoly on that. They got this taken care of. Or even something like I was talking about Obamacare earlier. the medical field is generally thought of as a political problem, and providing solutions there. Look at even something as simple as like Insurance Zebra. Insurance Zebra is a new site that just got, I think it was 1.5 million from Mark Cuban. And all that Insurance Zebra does is basically aggregate insurance quotes. So kind of like the kayak.com model, but they're providing solutions for people because healthcare is still a problem. Obamacare actually doesn't solve any problems, right? It's a perceived solution. At the end of the day, insurance companies are still doing the work. The doctors are still doing the work. The hospitals, right, are still helping people out. The government's not. And business can do things, I mean, problems you didn't even realize existed, including where to pee. So Clue, I mean, this is a joke, but at the same time, it's a reality. In Britain, in the condensed urban areas, you need to use a restroom, but let's say you're not spending $50 on a dinner at this restaurant. How do you find a public restroom? There's an app where you can charge people to use the bathroom in your private residence. And loo being a more European term, but yeah, this exists. That's a solution. Someone went, I need to use the restroom, and a business went, done. Right? Name a politician. I mean, we say that politicians are full of shit, but they can't solve that problem. But I do have some bad news. I have never in my life been so pissed off as when that man said that. Right? No, so everyone in this room gets it. Like, why did he say that? What did he mean? Where was Barack Obama standing when he said this? I understand where he's coming from. And I don't like it. That very premise that society is the one that precipitates your ability to provide a solution, it's completely inverted. In fact, it's perverse. I would go so far as to say that that mentality is even evil. It's not right. And we focus on that. We look at Barack Obama. We look at our professors, right, as people who are providing us with the values and the virtues or the frameworks, the influences, the changes, etc., to make the world a better place. I mean, that's why we listen to these people. That's why they're on our televisions. That's why they're on CNN and MSNBC, and you have professors from, this is a professor from Harvard, or this is a politician from this state. And you know what they do? What does he spend the majority of his time doing? What do those academics spend the majority of their time doing? Trashing business, right? So this is a big problem. We have these three items: academics, politics, and business, right? My argument is that business is the only thing that can solve a problem, not change or influence, but solve a problem. And the two other portions, the academics, the politics, I would say the political elitists, right? Not all academics, not every politician believes this, but the majority do. Our country, in large part, and the rest of the world, in very much a large part, right? All that they do, an entire philosophy is communism. What is communism predicated on? It's labor theory of value, and it's predicated on basically business. It's an attack philosophy, We're going to try and provide a solution, and communism goes, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that. How dare you offer a wage to someone that's not based on our grounding? Does communism ever actually talk about solving something? Or does it talk about manipulating someone trying to solve something? It's an interesting way to think about it, right? I've never heard a communist solution to any problem. Have you? But I also want to demonstrate that what are the capitalist solutions to our problems? We don't talk about those enough, right? We don't talk about our successes. We talk about our theories. But there is some good news, even with all the bad news. Academics and politicians attack us all the time, and business owners, etc. I spoke very briefly about Dr. Thomas Taylor, who was very influential to me when I read his book, An Introduction to Austrian Economics, and became good friends with him. And he actually introduced me to John Allison, John Allison is the former CEO of BB&T Bank. John took BB&T from 105, $115 million company when he became CEO to a $140 billion bank. That's a success story. There's a lot of wealth created in a very good business. In fact, y'all remember TARP and the bailouts and the banks, et cetera. Did you know that BB&T rejected TARP? It's the only bank that rejected TARP. So I'm sure a lot of libertarians here in Objective has heard of this story, especially since John has all of his executive staff read Atlas Shrugged. And what John told, John ended up being I would say a mentor. I was a member of the Piedmont Club in Winston-Salem, and I had breakfast with him a couple times. He became a professor at Wake Forest University. And what John and Dr. Thomas Taylor told me was really, I think, influential to me was, you will not believe, Jared, what Atlas can hold on its back. The world, right? So Atlas Shrugging, right? You have this picture of the guy holding the world on its back. Have you really thought what that means? It's the Atlas Shrugged, right? It's the business owner dealing with the junk, right? It's the Hank Rearden doing what he does best despite, not because of, but despite the academics going, your product is unsafe and you're harming the world, right? And then the politicians going, you know what? You can't even produce it. We're going to make it illegal. They still get things done. I mean, look at SpaceX. It's innovated and reduced cost not by a percentage, but by factors in an industry that was previously thought of as, well, there's no such thing as private spaceflight, much less as private spaceflight company. Now it's an industry. Jeff Bezos, anyone, the name of Jeff Bezos' latest venture? He's getting into private spaceflight. You know, the Virgin guy, they were going to do private spaceflight travel. Now they're thinking of ways to innovate and launch more satellites and et cetera. In fact, I don't recall the number, but there's a company that has one mission, and their only mission is to get someone to Mars, right? This is a one-way trip, and it's advertised that way. They've had like 250,000 applicants for a one-way trip in an industry, right, that is completely ridden with problems. And I'll let Steve from SpaceX just explain some of those later. And because this conversation is recorded and Steve's can't be, I won't give away any of the secrets. But the point is very simple. No matter what the state throws at me, if I actually believe in my business, I'm going to continue to provide the solution, right? That's kind of the unfair burden. That's why this picture actually means so much, is that no matter what's going on in that world, no matter how much heavier it gets, you still have to work harder, right? So I'm not here to trash the Atlas Society's business model. I'm not here to trash Rand Paul. I'm just saying we've not done enough to actually realize our best tools, right? We need to have a more positive philosophy. We need to actually recognize where there are things that have been influenced so much so that someone's life has been changed, and not just changed, but they were experiencing a pain that they're no longer experiencing. So there's a video that we just got done producing, one of my company's Market Aces, for the Atlas Society. And you might have seen it during Aaron's annual report, and I want to frame why I shot that video that way. If you think of business and you think of entrepreneurship and you think of business owners, generally what are you thinking of? You think of, as an American, not as us, right? We're odd. You're here on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. listening to me. You're weird. I am equally weird. I am one of you. I got up to give a presentation about something very controversial. I made that video because the common perception of what is an entrepreneur, a business owner, et cetera, is for Americans and the rest of the world is over the age of 50, white male, right? And what is it? It's some industry like banking where you're really screwing over everyone, or the monopoly guy, right? The Rockefellers, right? And you look at kind of entrepreneurship then, right? And you think of, monopolies, right? That's the whole reason the game Monopoly exists. Rockefeller going into, oil and these other industries and providing kind of one-size-fits-all solutions. We never talk about the fact that he was actually providing a solution and kind of changed the world. But look at it today. Look at Steve Jobs. Like, this is one of the single most and greatest inventions ever, right? Like the sum of human knowledge at my fingertips. Mind-boggling, right? But no, we never talk about that. Like, what's on our opposition side? What do they have? I got this. Like, that's a solution. In fact, it's so much of a solution, I use it every day. I have entire businesses and jobs and livelihoods that are 100% connected to this because of the vision of one man. I call that a hero. But yet, what do we focus on? What do we talk about? We don't talk about the beauty of this and how it's changed lives, and not just changed lives, solved problems, things that we can't even articulate. We talk about, well, Rand Paul said, this, that, and the other, and I'm going to argue with my friend on Facebook why he's just a conservative. BS. Who cares? It's never going to solve anything. You're wasting your time. And that's why I started the Liberty Business Bureau. I think it's important that we start realizing the beauty of our message. That is, if there's such thing as a process, right, for anything, you have strategy, execute, follow through, right? Objectivism and libertarianism has focused 100% on strategy. Where has our execution and follow through been? Well, it's built into our message. We want businesses to solve problems and don't get in their way. I encourage everyone, and especially the youth in this audience, to think about how would they solve a problem, not how would a philosophy change or influence a problem, right? It's solutions that matter. It's changing people's lives, alleviating a pain, and providing something unique to a marketplace where people are willing to give up something of value, money, time, etc., in order to alleviate a pain. The whole reason that companies exist is to provide solutions, right? I've never heard of a company that can't provide a solution, right? Especially when someone has to pay for it. Maybe a crony company, right? They're subsidized by the government in some respect, but an actual company provides a solution. It's inherent in the idea of a company. And I was talking a little bit earlier about the video we produced for the Atlas Society. I want to revisit that for a second because I think it's important to realize like what is the standard perception of an entrepreneur and business owner and what happens in the course of that video. Over the course of this video, you have this woman who has this child who's sick, and she goes to book an appointment, right, online. Her son basically says, why? Well, Mom, I'm sick now, and I get it. I know we can't go to the doctor right now, but I need to go to the doctor. And the son wants to be reassured, like, help me know that I'm going to be okay, right? So this is a problem for him. It's an emotional one. The mom goes, of course, son. Because he's a kid, he goes, well, just book it on the internet. Actually, most doctors, most lawyers, most service professionals don't have online booking systems. So she goes, this is crazy. Like, why can't I just do this online? Everyone else can. I mean, I have a Google Calendar. Why doesn't my doctor use something like that? So she creates an app called OpenTime and provides a solution to her own problem. And the culmination of that video, the end, right, is her she's at the pharmacy, and she sees, a kid, daughter and mother, basically going, I'm sick, I feel like heck, it's late, and, help me out. I want to be reassured. That's fine, I know it's late, but I'll pull out my phone and I'll book the appointment right now. Thanks, Mom. And she turns around and she goes, wow, that feels pretty good. That's beautiful, right? That's amazing. That's what we need to focus on. And I want to open it up now for discussion, do some back and forth questions, because basically what I've said is that everything that we've talked about in this movement and these philosophies has been backwards, right? We need to focus more on solutions, less on the problems. We have a negative philosophy. We need to have more of a positive one. and to actually leverage the beauty of things like this, because it really is monumental. It has changed the world. And our opposition can't say that. We can. We need to focus on that. And we can't ever let them win the argument whenever we have something like this on our side. It's beautiful. So thank you very much.
I do have a challenge for you, though, conceptually or whatever, just to understand where you're coming from a little bit better. Business's primary purpose is not to be a conscience of a society. They're busy producing and following their business model.
Of course.
Is it outrageous that the media and the public looks to academics and politicians for that conscience and guidance?
I think I said at one point during the presentation that, academics can provide purpose. I think that's important. I think that's very important, right? Of course, the media is going to look, and the general public will look towards academia and politicians for these macro feel-good things, right? Apple is not concerned with something that's not in their business model, right? So is Apple considered a go-to for someone to think of world problems? Of course not. I mean, CNN, like everything in the world, right? Well, Apple's business model is not CNN's business model. That's the irony, right? Is that the politicians and the academics even use a business to just disseminate their information, right? CNN, is that a successful company? Wildly successful. But at the same time, right, it's indicative of that larger problem. So no, it's not surprising, of course. Of course people, I think that's the problem we're addressing, right, is that it's inherent that we would look to politicians and academics for that kind of guidance. I think that's in any system, not America's, whatever. It's just built into a human dynamic.
So what's the means of getting business as such to be, quote unquote, addressing some of these solutions that seem like broader based issues or problems?
Right, so I actually do believe, right, so our quote-unquote heroes, the people who are on our side who've provided solutions, like really need to be more involved. So that's one of the reasons I started the Liberty Business Bureau, right? We need to have, as a part of consumer choice, what people are providing solutions and have done so, for instance, without corporate welfare. Like, ask any Democrat or ask any Republican what their view of corporate welfare is. Well, it's bad. I don't like that. Now tell me how you figure out whether a business is crony or real. Like, you can't. There's no database of that. So I think we need to make that part of the incentive structure, right? So where consumer choice is actually helping the businesses who are providing solutions, and we're cognizantly recognizing that. Like, for instance, if we could influence Apple to make sure that they are positively, creating the beautiful products that they are, or Microsoft for that matter, or any company, but also make them more cognizant of, well, I couldn't take money because our consumers wouldn't like that, or I couldn't, lobby for particular handouts or legislation because it might negatively impact my business. That's how I believe. I think that's the missing piece to our movement, is that we haven't focused enough on actually leveraging and getting those types of people involved. So the means, I would say, is to actually find that database of businesses that are, our results, right? What is the point of our philosophy, right, of saving this quote-unquote free market? Well, what's your product? That's my question to everyone here. So tell me not why you're selling it. I get that. What you believe and what I believe is very emotional, and we're on the same page. But what's your product? My product's right here. It's really easy to sell. But we can't name that beyond, some certain specific cases. We need to focus more on that.
I haven't looked at the website. You're basically saying business needs to be much, much more involved in all this.
It has to. It has to. It's our product, right? It's our product, and that's my point. We have to have our product on the same page.
Thank you.
Hi. So I'm trying to get a more specific idea of what you think the businessmen should be doing in the Bureau. Should they advertising, doing more videos?
Actually, this is a great question. I actually think it hurts a lot of businesses to take this stance. I do believe that. I think, for instance, John Mackey and Whole Foods, did Whole Foods make or lose money off of the stance that John Mackey took on Obamacare? I don't know the actual number. He may have got some conservatives to come out, but I actually bet that Whole Foods, on the whole, lost money on that stance. So to come out and be very, very publicly supporting or opposing a political idea oftentimes is negative for the business, right? So I'm not saying that businesses need to wear this LBB banner or fly the flag around. What I'm saying is us, the consumers, the people that support these ideas, the objectivists, the libertarians, need to herald them. So it's not necessarily that the business owners have to do this thing that right now is not economically advantageous. This is more of this is how we get our philosophy, our ideas from conception to reality. We have to make sure that our product, our producers, are resourced in a way that's, they're not the enemy, they're not evil, they're actually our helpers. And as time goes on, I think businesses will, for instance, be more like me. I can come up here and talk about this philosophy because I believe in it. And right now, as a software company, it's not negatively impacting me. My next venture, I want to go into energy. I guarantee that I'm going to be like, to the large portion of the American public, like the enemy, right? And it's going to be more difficult for me to talk about these ideas because it's going to negatively impact my business. And right, that's the moral conundrum, right? How do you turn aside reason and money for philosophy, for your morality? And that's why I think objectivism is unique, because you should always side with your morality. But I think the onus is on us as individuals, as consumers, as people who buy these products, to herald them as thank you for providing a solution.
Well, I'm totally supportive of that idea. I'm just trying to get my mind around what people are supposed to do.
Right, so Liberty Business Bureau, my end objective is to have the database of every single American business that does not accept corporate welfare and likes that idea, right? So I don't want the businesses who don't accept corporate welfare but would love to get the next handout. I want to have the database of American businesses who do not accept corporate welfare and are opposed to the idea, right? So when we say, I am a objectivist or I am a libertarian, here's our product. 20,000 businesses, 50,000, 100,000. I don't know what that number is. And it's a very simple business model. That's a very simple plan. I just want that list. And I want to provide you with the choice to go, I'm in a given territorial area, a new city, a new place. You pull out your iPhone or your Android and you go, I'm not giving the crony money today, and I need coffee, for instance, right? And let's say, for instance, there was a bar next door to a coffee shop, and the coffee shop went to the city government, right, to restrict the bar because the bar was playing music, right? And basically utilizing the state for their own business needs, right? I want to be empowered with those types of choices and make that part of the consumer conscious. So that's the goal, right? What does Liberty Business Bureau do? It's not a join this and all of a sudden you'll make more money. It's a join this because our philosophy is worth promoting and saving. That's our business model. Very simple. Get the list and provide consumers with a choice.
And then you want academics or people involved in politics to be writing articles or promoting the businesses that are involved in this bureau?
Oh, absolutely, right? Our content is good, right? Our product is amazing, but the politicians and the academics are always attacking it, right? We need to have the positive results. So it's a very simple problem. If we can't have the actual free market, what are we saving? Right now, we're actually not saving anything. We have this theory that is not real enough to people, and what I'm saying is with LBB and the product that we produce, where the academics could cover it and the politicians could cover it, would say, not talking about theoretical businessman X, but like Whole Foods proper, this business proper, this entire industry proper. I want to shape that debate and change the conversation where we're not talking about theory, we're talking about now, we're talking about reality, we're talking about facts, we're talking about something that's not where the academics have the upper hand, right? We want to be in the business world, not in the political world, because, well, I don't think anyone here likes the political world or the academic world in that respect.
And do you imagine that the businesses then will also be supportive of each other, so that if one gets in a dicey situation with the government or is lured to take something, that he'll have like a support group saying, that's not really a good idea.
A support group, a government support group, like, I'm addicted to government money and I need help. That's
you
hilarious.
never know, they might get into
That's a great commercial, actually. I think I might produce that for LBB. Actually, so yes, give me your contact information. I'll credit you in the credits for that. No, really, Ideally, of course I'd love that. That'd be amazing, right? For other business owners to say, how dare you? I mean, what's the most motivating force in politics? It's moral outrage. Why isn't that a factor in business? Well, it is for some people, right? I mean, why did people not shop at Whole Foods after John Mackey came out for Obamacare? They were morally outraged. They felt like John had said something that was intrinsically opposed to like the human condition. How dare you stand against people wanting health care? You're a bad man. That should go the opposite direction. And for instance, if we could influence a business by going, they screwed up by taking money and they're going to lose revenue because of it, well then, I was saying it on the panel the other night, like incentives matter, right? If your business could be negatively impacted by having a bad philosophy, the rational man, right, human condition would be, the action would be to change what you're doing. It's just reason, right? Like our system matters, and I'd like to change the incentive structure from making it a positive thing to accept bad money or handouts or lobby or just be a crony, right? And make it a very bad thing to do those things. Because right now the favors, right, the incentives still, our system favors cronyism. And we need to change the incentive structure, and that's only going to be done by having the identifiable product and making it economically less viable or painful, at least, right, to do those things.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Jared, your statement about business being the only thing that solves problems should be on every single Sunday talk show, every single week. It should be mentioned by every Libertarian candidate, every Republican candidate, and that message should be pounded again and again and again until the American public gets it. That is about the most powerful statement. It's the most powerful statement I've heard all weekend here. And if you internalize that, we get that message out, only business solves problems. If we could get everybody saying that in the media, right? So, as everybody knows, only business solves problems. I mean, government can influence, but only business solves it. You keep saying that and saying that and saying that until it gets through to people, and then eventually the public starts saying it. Now we've got a movement.
Right.
That was brilliant, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Woo. I appreciate it. I mean, as Steve Jobs said, you know, one of my icons is, it's very, very easy to be complicated. It's much more difficult to be simple. Like, what I provided here was not 1,000 bar charts and graphs and statistics and numbers. It's a very macro concept. It's very big, and in that level, it's very base and very basic. But it's monumental, right? It's the base of everything. It's our entire society. It's everything we believe in and everything we do and everything we fight for is based on that premise, that solving something is more important than talking about it, right?
Yep.
An action means more than a thought, but a solution means more than an action.
Anyone in this room who has the ear of any politician who believes in anything that we believe, you got to put that message in their ear. They've got to carry that. I'm telling you, man, every single Sunday talk show, every single week, that message should be included. If somebody is saying it, we should figure out who those people are. Who's going to be on the Sunday talk shows for the next 10 weeks, right? And make sure that whoever talks to those people gets that. Hey, listen, all we want you to do is include this 1 3-second clip. Well, you know, as everybody knows, only business solves problems. Boom, and just keep putting it out there. It's killer. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, looks like there's not any other questions. Again, thank you everyone for coming out. I really hope that you enjoy the next couple presentations. I believe Alexander Cohen speaking next and Steve Davis, both of whom I have a lot of respect for. And thank you again for coming out to the Atlas Summit, and Aaron Day and the Atlas Society for having me. Appreciate it.